Tonight was the post-Forbidden Door edition of Dynamite with Sting and Chris Jericho back in the ring together. They were only in the ring for the first time on Sunday. And tonight we got them in a Tornado Tag Team main event. It was Sting and Darby Allin against Chris Jericho as the Painmaker and Sammy Guevara. And one thing that is very clear, the more that we see Sting in these types of matches, and this was the clearest, just the clearest that we have seen this tonight in this main event, is that Darby Allin is a terrible influence on Sting. Because every time Sting is out there, he feels the need to do something wacky. Because his partner is always doing stuff that's wild and wacky and crazy. So he feels like, well, I have to do the same thing. Tonight it was a ladder spot. And I thought the man had killed himself. I thought the man knocked every tooth out of his mouth on this spot. I was screaming as I was watching this at the television that you're too far away. You're too far away. He couldn't hear me. Sting was on top of a ladder. Sammy Guevara was laid out on a table outside the ring. Sting took a dive. And Sting, he made it to one table. And it reminded me, honestly, of what happened at Grand Slam last year at Arthur Ashe Stadium. It was a very similar spot where Sting took a table bump, and he only went through one table, even though they had two of them out there. He went through one, and his head hit the edge of the other. Tonight, it was his mouth. And, I have a lot of respect for Sting. I think it's cool that he feels he wants to hang with everybody else and do the same thing that everybody else is doing, and he wants to show people that I could go out there and I could still do these things that you say I cannot do. I know that Sting can do it. That doesn't necessarily mean that he should. Just because you can does not mean that you should. And now it's to the point where I see this guy out there and I hold my breath because I don't know what ludicrous, insane spot he's going to do next. And that completely took me out of the main event. I will tell you, having watched this show tonight, this show peaked with the opening match of the night, which was Jon Moxley and Ishii. That was the peak. For me, that was the peak of the show tonight. Which is not to say that this show was a bad show, but this was a very middle-of-the-road show tonight. We did get the blood and guts announcement. We knew it was coming. It was only a matter of when. And the official announcement came tonight in the form of a challenge issued by Jon Moxley to the Elite. Blood and Guts, July 19th on Dynamite. They're going to be making their debut at the TD Garden Arena in Boston. And that will be the night that we put this Elite and Blackpool Combat Club feud to rest once and for all. At least I would hope. I would certainly hope Blood and Guts is the blow-off. And they don't just do Blood and Guts and then move on to some other gimmick match. What I was really looking forward to tonight was seeing what kind of promo we would get from Jungle Boy Jack Perry. Jungle Boy turned heel on his best friend Hook at Forbidden Door on Sunday. We knew he was going to be talking tonight. What would a Jungle Boy heel promo look like? We found out tonight. Now, I'm going to tell you all about it. We did not have any matches in the Owen Hart Foundation tournaments. We were supposed to have one on the women's side. We did not have that match. And again, we will talk about why that was. But when the show was over, again, it felt like a very middle-of-the-road show. Some good things on this show, but an episode of Dynamite that if you missed it, you don't really need to go out of your way to see much. Some weeks Dynamite, it's action-packed and moves too fast, and it's hard to just kind of keep track of everything that's going on. But there are weeks where it feels like a happening. When the show is over, like, holy shit, that show took me on a roller coaster ride. There's just so many different things going on, and there was a lot going on, but again, when the show was, I don't want to say it was filler because I don't think that's an accurate word. They moved stories along again. They announced Blood and Guts. The Jungle Boy and Hook stuff. So they have their stories that they focused on, but I've seen better episodes of Dynamite. But we will talk about all of it here because this is your AEW Dynamite review for Wednesday, June 28th, 2023. Today was 25 years ago to the day of one of the single most memorable, single most famous matches in professional wrestling history, the King of the Ring in 1998. It was the night that The Undertaker tossed Mick Foley off the top of the Hell in a Cell, and he went all the way down through the announce desk. And Jim Ross thought he was broken in half, and we thought, man, what a bad night for Mick Foley, right? Well, his night only got worse. 25 years ago today, I saw the watch along. WWE put it up on their YouTube channel. They got Undertaker and Foley in the room together to rewatch the entire Hell in a Cell match, which was very cool if you missed that. You know what else is very cool? Brian Musha just gifted 5 channel memberships, so say thank you, Brian. We lost a whole bunch of channel members because some of the gifted ones expired this week. So some of you may be surprised. You may be in the chat and say, hey, where'd my badge go? If you were gifted one, a lot of them expired this week. So we'll see if we can claw back some of them. We got 5 more, thanks to Brian. So thank you to him for that. Hit that like button. 400 likes is what we are looking for. If you want to be the booker later on in the stream, that is the goal for tonight. That is out of my hands. It's going to be all up to you guys. Super chats are open, and as I just mentioned, you can also become a channel member if you would like to do so. Let's get into this, because this was my favorite part of the show. This was my favorite match of the night. It was the opening match. The Forbidden Door was not shut. You might think, oh, it's another year before it reopens. Oh, no. Forbidden Door was still open because the show opened with Jon Moxley going one-on-one with the Stone Pitbull from New Japan Pro Wrestling, Tomohiro Ishii, the same Ishii who scored the winning fall for his team at Forbidden Door, was back on the show tonight. During the opening match, Tony Khan tweeted about 10 minutes into the show. He tweeted the following: due to illness, 2022 Owen Hart Foundation Women's Tournament winner Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, is not cleared to wrestle tonight against Ruby Soho. Ruby will be in action tonight, plus the 2023 Owen Hart Foundation Tournament quarterfinal match between Ruby and Britt will take place next week instead. So Adam Cole missed Forbidden Door due to what was called illness. Adam Cole was on the show tonight. He never actually came out in front of the live crowd. I assume he was there. I assume that wasn't something that was taped at a different time. Maybe it was. Otherwise, I guess he was okay, and now Britt is sick with whatever it is that I guess Adam was first sick with. But that match did not happen. So that match will now take place on the show next Wednesday. But coming out of the break, the first break of the night, Moxley and Ishii, they were trading forearms in the center of the ring for what had to legitimately be 2 straight minutes. And 2 minutes may not sound like a long time, but when you have 2 guys in the middle of the ring exchanging punches or exchanging chops, count it out. Whatever this actually was, 90 seconds, 2 minutes, it felt like a full 2 minutes. This was going on for far too long here. And Moxley, he followed that after he finally got the better end of that exchange. He followed that with a gotch-style pile driver for 2. Moxley was firing away with the anvil elbows, and Ishii just starts flipping him off. Just love Ishii. Starts flipping. The man has no neck. The man has no neck. When he walks out there, it's just, I look at this guy, there's just nobody like him. There really isn't. King Kong Bundy was another one. He had no neck. It's just a head on top of a pair of shoulders. That's all it is. So at this point, I'm liking this match well enough, but like I said, the forearms, I'm like, all right, come on. You know, little too much here with the forearms. But then they amped it up. Saito suplex from Ishii. Here comes Moxley back with the German suplex. King Kong lariat. He covers him. 1, 2. Ishii kicks out. Moxley comes back with a knee strike, again a cover, a 1 count only. So we end up with a double clothesline spot in the middle of the ring. So they clothesline each other at the same time. And they both stand there and they just crumble. They're like leaning on each other as they just crumble to the mat in a heap. You know, Bash, that's actually a great analogy. He really does. Ishii looks like a baked potato. I was trying to think of what I was going to say Humpty Dumpty, but he does kind of look like a baked potato. Actually, you put sneakers on a baked potato, and you have Ishii. I love them. So they were both on their knees now as they're trying to muster up enough energy because these two men just collapsed on each other. So now they're both on their knees. They start exchanging headbutts. And that busts open Moxley pretty badly on his forehead. A really bad gash on his forehead. So they showed Claudio. Claudio and Yuta were outside in Moxley's corner. Eddie Kingston had come out earlier in the match. He was also outside the ring. I don't know that he was necessarily in Ishii's corner, but he's outside, Claudio's outside, and Claudio would not take his eyes off Eddie Kingston. So periodically they would cut to the floor, and you would see Claudio out there, just like the sneer on his face, just eyeballing him. It's not breaking his stare the entire time. Even when the match was over and Claudio was out there clapping for Moxley, he still wouldn't take his eyes off Eddie Kingston. But there was a double underhook. He tried to go for the Death Rider, did Moxley. Ishii ducked underneath and hit his own paradigm shift. And he delivered a King Kong lariat to Jon Moxley. Covered him, got a 2 count, Moxley kicked out. Moxley comes back, he hits a cutter. Ishii kicks out at 1. Clothesline, now he wants a brainbuster, but Moxley escapes. Death Rider connects, and Moxley didn't cover him right away. There was maybe 2 or 3 seconds before he finally crawled over to try for the cover. When he did, he got a 2 count only, and he kicked out. So then Moxley connected with a stomp at this point, another Death Rider, and finally he got the 3 count on Ishii. Now, Eddie is on the outside. Eddie Kingston's on the outside. And he's clapping for Moxley. You know, I don't even want to say sarcastically. He's clapping for Moxley like, I guess it was kind of sarcastic. You know, good job. As Moxley left the ring, Moxley blew right past him. He even bumped shoulders with Eddie as he was walking back up the ramp. And so Eddie is jawing at him from afar. You can hear Kingston. He's congratulating Moxley. Congratulating him. He tells him, you did it by yourself. See, you don't need him. You don't need these guys. And Moxley yelled something back at him. He was kind of making it like he was going to come back down to confront Kingston, but he thought better of it. And Moxley headed to the back. This was just a fun opener. Like I said, I thought at one point, okay, we're going a little overboard here with the forearm shots and relying on that a little too much. But then it just kicked up a few notches. And there were some great near falls in here. Great back and forth I could have done without Moxley getting busted in the opening match. But it's Moxley, so I mean, what do you expect? Not the only blood we would get on this show. I feel like this show was in part between the blood and then the shit that we saw in the main event with the ladder spot and the skateboard and everything. This show felt like one big commercial for the video game, which in case you didn't know, because they reminded you about it a lot during the show, as they should. I mean, Tony Khan has spent like $10 million on this game. But this felt like one big commercial for AEW Fight Forever, even down to some of the spots that we saw in some of the matches on the show. But I love this opener. And as it would turn out, this was the, in my opinion, best part of the entire show. Now, Renee was in the back. She was in the parking garage area. And she was talking about Adam Cole and MJF having to put their differences aside to be tag team partners in this blind eliminator tag team tournament that we have going on here. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I could have sworn that last week we were told that we were going to get all of the names of the teams in this tournament tonight, which we did not. So I don't know if I heard wrong last week. I could have sworn that's what Excalibur told us. But apparently, I guess plans change. So then Adam Cole arrives in an SUV. He's talking to Renee. A second car pulls up. And MJF gets out. It's honking. The horn is being honked. MJF gets out of the passenger side. And he congratulates Adam Cole for getting sick and missing Forbidden Door. Boy, I wish I would have thought about that. That was smart. So he invites Cole to hop on into his car. Let's go bond. Let's go hang out. We'll have our little bonding session together. Cole ends up accepting his invitation. And he says, first, I got to go say hello to a few people. MJF says, wait, I got a gift for you. And he has his driver toss something over to him. And he reveals that it's a t-shirt. And the t-shirt says, better than you, baby. Which he then turns to the camera and says, which is now available on shopaew.com. Which I don't know if it is or not. I assume it is. It looked like a real shirt. So you can go to shopaew.com and see if it's there. So Cole was not impressed by this. He ended up walking away. We'll come back to these two later on in the show. After the break in the back, Renee, who had a very busy night. Renee was in the back now with someone she's very familiar with. Moxley, Claudio, and Yuta were there. She wanted to know what the hell's going on between you and Kingston. Moxley was very upset over Kingston implying that he needed help to win. Eddie showed up. He took issue with Moxley aligning himself with that scumbag, referring to Claudio. Moxley told him, who cares about 10 years ago in Chikara? It's over. Get over it. Kingston said, I care. And again, Moxley told him to get over it. So now Renee is getting in between them. And Renee is getting very animated. She's getting very pissed. She's standing in between these two trying to keep them apart. Moxley walks away, and Renee then turns to Eddie, and she demands, in a very stern way, she had her finger in his chest. She demanded that Eddie fix this because I'm done. And Renee walked off. This was not friendly, affable, backstage interviewer Renee. This was pissed off wife Renee, who was ready to put her boot in someone's ass. There's a different side of her that we really don't get to see on television very much. So that added a nice little dimension to this. I like the story that they appeared to be telling here of Eddie trying to convince Moxley, dude, you don't need this guy. You don't need this guy. You don't need this group. You can do fine just on your own. Trying to drive a wedge between the members of the Blackpool Combat Club to the point where Moxley may end up having to make a choice, and he may have to choose between his friend, his old friend, and his new friends. That seems to be the story they're telling here. It could be probably a very early sign, but a sign that maybe in the not too distant future, maybe, towards the end of the tunnel, there's a little bit of light there that could indicate a split where the Blackpool Combat Club comes apart, or Moxley leaves the Blackpool Combat Club. He has to make a decision about what he wants to do. Anything that gets Eddie Kingston back on television is fine with me, because Eddie Kingston, up until I think last week or the week before, these are his first appearances on Dynamite in a year. 1 year. He's been on some of the other shows. He's been in Ring of Honor. Eddie Kingston is somebody, and here's the thing about Eddie Kingston. Eddie Kingston missed about a year of Dynamite. He shows up, and there are people who watch this show who don't tune into Rampage, and they don't have Honor Club, so they're not watching Ring of Honor. And they're probably wondering, I didn't even know Eddie was gone. Or, where's Eddie Kingston been? I thought he was hurt. He was hurt, actually. He had hernia surgery. But as long as he's been off this show, he shows up, he's back on Dynamite, he's back in the mix. And you heard the reaction that even at Forbidden Door, when he was in the ring, when he tagged in him and Mox, just the reaction that he gets, people love Eddie Kingston. So at some point, there is a story to be told of Eddie Kingston trying to go for the AEW World Championship against MJF. I don't see him winning it, but do I think that an MJF Eddie Kingston feud and those promos for that match, do I think that could be a pay-per-view match? You bet your fucking ass I do. You bet your ass I do. And maybe not even a pay-per-view. Maybe it's a Grand Slam at Arthur Ashe. Or maybe it is a pay-per-view. Maybe it's Full Gear. But I definitely think there's a big championship match, at least one, that they can get out of that. Because he's just naturally likable. There's something about his personality, that gruff personality. People just gravitate towards the guy. He's got some odd charisma about him that people like. And Tony Khan should tap into that and really take advantage and do something with it. So it's good to see him back on the main show here for a change. Now, we got a video package recapping the Will Osprey Kenny Omega IWGP US title match from Forbidden Door, which, if it isn't the match of the year, is certainly the second best match of the year so far. Those two had a tremendous outing on Sunday, and they aired footage also as part of this video from after the match of Kenny Omega in the back saying, "It's not over, and I will be back." And then Will Osprey was in a different part of the building, and he said, "Kenny, anytime you want to settle this, I know a good spot." I know a good spot too. I know the spot that he was referring to, with 70,000 other people who would also be willing to show up to see a rubber match between these two men for that U.S. title. That is the best place to get that match done. We need a part 3. Omega won the first one. Osprey won the second one. There's only one place, and it's not Wrestle Kingdom. There's only one place to do that third match. We had Orange Cassidy, Keith Lee, and El Hijo del Vikingo, the AAA Mega Champion, in a trios match against Daniel Garcia, Matt Menard, and Angelo Parker. Before the match, we had an inset promo from the Jericho Appreciation Crew. If you were interested in hearing what Daniel Garcia and Matt Menard and Angelo Parker had to say, well, you were shit out of luck. So they show them in the box, okay? At the same time, Excalibur is trampling over their entire promo, cutting a promo of his own to promote the AEW Fight Forever game. So Tony Schiavone is in the back with these three guys. They're cutting their promo, and I don't know if it was just Excalibur didn't get a cue or the production screwed up the audio somehow, but again, he just talked over the entire promo. I don't know how that happens. It wasn't even like a 3-second thing. He trampled over the entire promo. Now, I wasn't all that interested in hearing what they had to say anyway, so I don't give a shit. But yeah, that was an odd choice. So you really couldn't hear a damn thing that they were saying. Keith Lee, he got rid of the gray hair, so he looks 10 years younger. He looks like he's turned back the hands of time. I don't know what's been going on with Keith Lee. You know, I just mentioned Eddie Kingston making his first appearances here on Dynamite these last few weeks in like a year. Keith Lee's been spending most of his time on Rampage. You know, he was tagging with Dustin Rhodes there for a while, and you know, wrestling on the Friday show. Not really part of what I would consider to be any major story in this company. Very minor story. Still hasn't even had that big singles match with Swerve Strickland. How many months has it been? We still haven't gotten that match. So it was nice to see him get time to shine here on the Wednesday show for a change. When he tagged into the match here, he catapulted himself over the top rope onto Matt Menard and Angelo Parker, basically rolled over them like a steamroller. Now, there was a spot, unfortunately, that clearly did not go as planned. Vikingo was supposed to be caught on a dive by Keith Lee outside the ring. And so Vikingo launches himself over the top rope, and unfortunately the spot got botched. Keith Lee did not catch Vikingo, and in fact it looked like Vikingo just took out his own partner with a dive. And, you know, you could hear Keith Lee, he cussed, I think he said shit or whatever it was that he said. It was very clear that whatever they were trying to do did not work out. And so you're watching them, and it's like, how are they going to, you know, in a situation like that, on what they seemed to be trying to do, where it looked like he was going to catch him and then use him maybe as like a weapon or a battering ram on the opponents, it's like, just move on. You know, just because he's trying to figure out how he can get him up, and then they just sort of gave up on the spot. But he got back up. He put Vikingo up in a powerbomb position like they had originally planned. Not to powerbomb him, but to use him basically as a wrecking ball on the heels. Vikingo then hit a moonsault from the top rope to the floor to take out Parker and Menard. Match broke down. Parker ate an orange punch. Keith Lee was no-selling some chops here from Matt Menard. Ultimately, though, he planted Daddy Magic with the Supernova, which is his finish, and he got the 1-2-3 for his team. So not only does Keith Lee reemerge here on Dynamite, he wins the match, which was nice to see. The wheels came off a little bit there at the end, mainly on that one spot. You know, shit happens. The wheels didn't fall off quite the way they did for Rey Mysterio and LA Knight on SmackDown last week. That was worse. But they had an ugly moment there. They recovered quickly. This was not as fun as the opener. This was fine. It was a good match here, but I enjoyed the opener more. Excalibur later on in the show. I mentioned the Blind Eliminator Tag Team Tournament. Later on in the show, Excalibur told us that it will be Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland as tag team partners. I'm still sitting here waiting for the singles match. Now they're partners again. I feel like I missed a chapter in the book here. Now, they're partners again because, again, it's a blind draw. It's funny how this blind draw works out. We get MJF and Adam Cole as tag team partners. What are the chances? Now we get Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland. Can they at least try to pretend that it's an actual blind draw? Because I'm not buying into this so far. I feel like there's a little conspiracy here going on. So it'll be Lee and Swerve taking on Darby Allin and Orange Cassidy, who have been a tag team before. We did not even get the tumblers this week. It was literally a quick 4 or 5 second announcement as Excalibur was speeding through the match announcements. Oh, by the way, next week, Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland, they'll be tag team partners. Oh, okay. Thanks. Thanks for letting us know. As far as the remaining teams, I guess we'll have to wait for next week. They did not tell us tonight who the other teams are in this tournament. Maybe they'll put a bracket out. The Young Bucks and Hangman Page were in the back talking about their open challenge tonight when the Dark Order, or what's left of the Dark Order. I know Stu Grayson is no longer part of the Dark Order, right? He's part of the Righteous now in Ring of Honor. I'm not even sure who's left in the Dark Order. I think this is it. I think it's John Silver, Alex Reynolds, and Evil Uno. Who else is there? Preston Vance left months ago. Anna Jay left months ago. Stu Grayson just left. Even Negative One's like, fuck this. He peaced out. Who's left? So what's left of the Dark Order, they showed up. And Silver accepted the challenge for a match tonight. Hangman said, hey, we could do a 12-man tag. And Reynolds said, no, we're here to accept the 6-man. We're not looking to be your partner. We're looking for a fight. And Evil Uno said that Hangman bailed on them despite being there for his darkest moments. He opted to take sides with the Elite instead. So Page tried to explain himself, and the Dark Order did not want to hear any of it. Who exactly are we supposed to be rooting for here? Are we supposed to be rooting for the geeks? Are we supposed to be rooting for the frat boys who, Hangman basically dumped them for? I mean, who exactly are we supposed to be sympathetic towards? I feel like we're supposed to be sympathetic towards the Dark Order, but I have no feelings towards the Dark Order. I feel nothing. I'm numb. So, I don't know exactly who we're supposed to be rooting for in this story. Renee interviewed Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara backstage. Jericho did all the talking. He spoke about being in the ring with Sting for the first time at Forbidden Door and said that it should have happened years ago. With Tony Schiavone commentating back then, it should have happened years ago on TBS. He said Sting wanted more time. Jericho said Sting would get the Painmaker tonight. Sting knows about being dark and how desperate things can get when your back is up against the wall. Jericho said that they would put the white paint on, or the white paint in the dirt until it comes out a bloody I don't know. He was trying to be poetic here. Whatever. It's a fucking match. Just come out and wrestle. Hangman Page and the Young Bucks against Evil Uno, Alex Reynolds, and John Silver. Hangman was very hesitant. The story of this match was that Hangman still has feelings for the Dark Order members. And feels bad, I guess, that they felt like he's turned his back on them. So he was very hesitant to get in the ring and actually fight them. He didn't want to. At one point, Matt Jackson yelled at him. He tagged him in and yelled at him and said, look, get your head in the game, man. We're wrestling a match here. So he declined to do anything to John Silver, who was down on the mat. Then he tagged out, and that took us into a picture-in-picture break. Uno put Nick down with a pile driver and had him pinned, but Hangman broke it up. Page and Uno then bickered back and forth. Hangman went back to his corner and tagged himself in, and finally he starts trading blows with Evil Uno. A wrestling match broke out. Later on, Uno and Silver, they held up Hangman for the pendulum bomb, but the Bucks broke it up. Page ended up hitting the Deadeye to John Silver, dropped him right on his head. The Bucks hit Silver with the BTE trigger. Sounded like the Bucks were getting some boos here. That was very noticeable to me. They're still up in Canada. They're still up in Omega country. But the Bucks were getting, not a lot, but they were getting some boos. And Hangman connected with the Buckshot Lariat and then pinned John Silver. After the match, Moxley, Claudio, Yuta, they attacked the Elite from behind. They jumped them. The Dark Order did nothing to help. In fact, Evil Uno said, guys, let's go. And they left the ring, and we could hear Uno saying he made his choice. He chose his friends. And the Dark Order left. So that finally ends that friendship once and for all. Moxley then pulled out a screwdriver, again with the screwdriver. And he uses the screwdriver to... He's jabbing Hangman in the head. He uses it to open up Hangman Page. So now we see Don Callis and Konosuke Takeshita. They arrive on the scene. They get into the ring. Eddie Kingston ran out. He was quickly taken down. Hangman was now bleeding from the forehead, so more blood here on the show. Still, not the last time we would see blood tonight. He was looking to the stage. I guess he was looking towards the Dark Order for help. But again, the Dark Order left him high and dry. They're done with him. So Moxley took the microphone. The Elite is just a mess right now. Moxley takes the microphone. And he says, Elite, it's been fun, but it's time to finish this. He said, we pushed each other to our limits, and now we're going to push ourselves beyond our limits. And he did his best William Regal impression, or he tried to. And he said, July 19th, in Boston, blood and guts. So there's the... And it's very appropriate that of all people to announce blood and guts, that it would be Jon Moxley. So there you go. The official announcement has been made. And now the question is, why is Solomonster a Punk hater? Why does he hate Punk so much? What did he ever do to him? No, that's not the question I was referring to, but the timing on that could not have been any better. Hey, Bobbert Reviews, thank you for the $40 See ya, Punk hater super chat. Bobbert, thank you, man. Very kind of you. I appreciate that. But that's not the question I was about to ask. The question now is, what is the alignment going to be here of participants here in this Blood and Guts match? Because up until now, every Blood and Guts match that we have seen has been 5-on-5, right? And that's usually what War Games is. This is obviously their form of War Games. So you assume it's going to be 5-on-5, and it certainly looked like we were heading towards Moxley, Danielson, Claudio, Yuta, and Takeshita against the Elite, and then they would have to find one or two other people. And that's where a lot of the talk about Kota Ibushi came up, and, you know, they're going to need that fifth man, and it's going to be Ibushi, and now it doesn't look that way at all, because... And I forgot to even mention this at the beginning here. Obviously, Bryan Danielson was not on the show tonight. Bryan Danielson was not with the Blackpool Combat Club. Bryan Danielson broke his arm. And I said that the other night, that he broke his arm. People were like, he didn't break it, he fractured it. People need a fucking dictionary. So, he broke his arm. We've seen the scans. Brie Bella put the x-ray on her Instagram page. It's a clean break. He said at the media scrum that he was told that the doctors thought maybe he'd be out 6 to 8 weeks. I think that's probably being very generous. He's probably going to be out a lot longer than that. But however long he's out for, he ain't going to be in Blood and Guts. Okay, so Danielson is out. So now you have Jon Moxley, Claudio, and Wheeler Yuta. And I don't think we're going to see their partner from Forbidden Door. I don't think old Shooter from New Japan is going to be with them. And then there's Takeshita. So they have 4. On the other side, you have the Young Bucks, you have Hangman Page, and now it's just a question of when does Kenny Omega get back? Can Kenny Omega be there for Blood and Guts? When Omega does come back, you have your 4th man. So all of a sudden, does this really need to be 5-on-5? Is this even going to be 5-on-5? This feels to me now, with Danielson going down with the injury, like it's probably going to be 4-on-4. That's what it feels like to me. Now we have, 3 weeks to find out, but it seems logical to me that you would just do 4-on-4. People saying, well, what about Eddie Kingston? You're forgetting about Eddie Kingston. No, I'm not. Eddie Kingston is in the G1 this year. The G1 kicks off on July 15th. He has to go to Japan. He's going to be in Japan for a few weeks. That's July 15th that it kicks off. This is July 19th. I don't see how that's going to be possible. So let's assume that Eddie Kingston is just simply not going to be available. You take him out of the picture. 4-on-4 is what I think Blood and Guts is probably going to be. They could always tack on more people, but why? That, now you're getting into the whole thing of you're adding people who have not been part of this blood feud. The whole thing with Ibushi is that you bring him in to balance the two sides, and you have, of course, the history with him and Omega. What a great reunion that would be. But now everything is all fucked, especially with the Danielson injury. So 5-on-5 doesn't really make any sense. Speaking of Blood and Guts, somebody remind me, is there I don't think Blood and Guts is in the new video game, right? I know Stadium Stampede apparently is going to be, I think, DLC content. I've seen screenshots, so I know that's coming. I don't think they have Blood and Guts. I don't think they have any cage matches in Fight Forever. Is that possible? Has there been a wrestling game in the last 20 years that's come out that hasn't at least had a singles steel cage match mode? I don't think this game has a cage match. Which is kind of strange. In the back, Roderick Strong approached Adam Cole, who was waiting on MJF. He was back in the parking garage. And Strong told Cole, look, you can't trust this guy. So MJF walks up saying hi to Adam Cole and hey, generic white guy, to Roderick Strong. He said, look, I don't want to stick around here longer than I have to watch wrestling, so let's get the hell out of here. And so he and Adam Cole left together in MJF's car for their team bonding. Cole is going to look like such an idiot if something happens to him. Because everybody and their mother could see what's going on here. They could see that MJF is clearly up to something. He's got to know that MJF is obviously plotting something. Whatever it is that he's plotting, hopefully it'll blow up in his face, or Cole can turn it back around on him so he doesn't look like a friggin' moron. Whatever it is, though, this was the last we saw of them on the show. So I guess we'll have to tune in next week. Either next week or on Saturday, because MJF is actually wrestling on Collision this weekend to find out exactly what happened between these two. So yeah, there is no cage match in Fight Forever. That is odd. Of all the match modes that they have, they don't have a regular steel cage match. That is bizarre. So up next was one of the segments I was most looking forward to on this show. It was time for Jungle Boy. Jungle Boy Jack Perry. Yes, the exploding barbed wire death match is in Fight Forever, but steel cage match mode is not. Okay. I guess maybe they could always add it in the DLC, I suppose. A lot of mixed reviews about the game. Seeing a lot of mixed reviews. I saw IGN. I don't know how many people give a shit about ratings from magazines and online outlets, but IGN gave the game 6 out of 10. So, not the biggest endorsement, but I guess to each their own. You know, some people have gone hands-on with the game so far. I have not. But some people have and said it's really a lot of fun. Some people have gone hands-on and said that the story mode is very threadbare. It's very basic. Some people are more into the story mode, you know, especially if they played the 2K WWE games. Some people just want to pick up their controller and just play. Just mash buttons and play wrestling. So I guess it really just depends on what you're picking up the game for. $60 is not cheap. So, but yeah, we had Jungle Boy Jack Perry. He was up next on his way to the ring for his first promo since turning on Hook at Forbidden Door. So Jungle Boy walked out, and he was rocking the shades, demanding they turn off Tarzan Boy, which he called that garbage song. He said the fans have ruined it for him, and he goes, as a matter of fact, we're never going to hear it again. So we shall miss thee, Baltimore. I do like that song. That's a bummer. You know, for Maximum Heat, he should probably come out to Nickelback from now on. Everybody shits on Nickelback. Actually, I happen to like Nickelback, so I don't know what everyone's problem is with Nickelback, but apparently Nickelback is like a dirty word. And if you want heat, then go with Nickelback. So he said, you know, I've got a car outside waiting to take me to the airport, and all of you were stuck here with the wildfires, since they were in Canada. He says, I'm still young, I'm cashing fat checks, sorry. I'm cashing fat checks, and I'm, you know, the next part of this sentence is, I'm still banging the hottest bitch in this entire place. I'm still banging the hottest bitch in this entire place. I almost transposed that. It's oh, man. I almost mixed those two sentences up and said something else. Anyway, Jungle Boy is still young. He's cashing fat checks, and he's banging the hottest bitch in the entire company. That's what he said. And, you know, that last line, I expected that last line to get a bigger reaction. It didn't really get much of a reaction. I got a pop out of me. I thought it was a great line. And no lies detected, because Anna Jay she's a gorgeous woman. But I don't know, in the building, it didn't get the kind of reaction I was expecting it to. And then the next line here was also kind of strange, because the next line he goes, now, Toronto, let me ask you a question. And, you know, it got boos. I just assumed he did that on purpose because they were not in Toronto. They were in Hamilton. But he didn't make a face. He didn't really follow up on it. So I'm not sure if he really did just think it was Toronto. I would like to think he said that on purpose for heat, but I'm not so sure. I don't know. Jungle Boy, you know, this is his first heel promo. He's not an expert in this yet. He's not yet. Yeah, he doesn't have enough of these under his belt. So maybe he really did think it was Toronto. I don't know. He goes, did I turn on Hook, or did everybody else turn on me? After everything I've given to this place, and after being robbed of 2 world championships, you expect me to watch some entitled second-generation little prick dangle his championship in my face? The funny thing is, he says, that belt isn't even officially recognized by this company. And that's for the same reason I don't recognize you, Hook. You're a fraud. Said I never needed you. Jungle Hook was special because of me. The last time I was in a tag team, I was a world champion. And you were lucky to stand next to me in a ring. So he yelled at the crowd to shut up. He said he knows what that title means to Hook, and he also knows what it means to his family. And at that point, he went to the corner and looked over at the announcers on stage. He looked over at Taz. Crowd was chanting asshole at him, and he said, see, Taz, that's what they think of you. He said, that's exactly why I'm going to take that title from Hook, because I know how much it means to him. When I get my hands on you, I'm going to beat the shit out of you. And as he said the word shit, Hook's music interrupted him. And Hook ran out after him. Jungle Boy took off into the crowd. Hook chased after him. When they cut to the back, we saw Jungle Boy. He was still running away from Hook in the back. He was throwing garbage cans in the way to try to slow him down. He jumped into a waiting car. The car pulled out, and Hook was not able to catch up with him, but Hook seemed very upset. So that's his first heel promo under his belt. I thought he did a pretty decent job with it. Again, this entire time I have said, it's worth it to take the chance on him as a heel because he needed something different. He has been running around in a loincloth, calling himself Jungle Boy for 4 years now, almost 4 years. And at some point, you've got to evolve and you've got to move on from that. And he just challenged for the AEW World Heavyweight Championship at Double or Nothing, right? It doesn't get any higher than that unless he wins it, and he's not ready for that yet. So it's like, where does he go from here? He's been a babyface for so long. By turning him heel, you now open up a whole new plethora of opponents for him to work with as a heel. But can he carry a heel promo? Can he carry himself as a heel in a believable way? I didn't know the answer to that question, and neither did you or anybody else because we'd never seen it before. So how do you know it until you try? I said it's worth trying. Hollywood Jack Perry with Anna Jay possibly at his side, right? That's the way to go. So as soon as he walked out tonight, in the jeans and the shades, I think he had a leather jacket on. I said, there he is. There's Hollywood Jack Perry. Even if he doesn't call himself that. That's the first thing I thought of when he walked out. He was already carrying himself like he was just completely full of himself. And I thought as a first effort, he just felt more comfortable on the microphone as a heel. You know, it's only one time. We have to see what happens as he continues to go out there and do more of these. But I thought he did a pretty decent job. You know, he's not MJF out there, but he did a pretty decent job with it now, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of him. I'm looking forward to seeing more of Hollywood Jack over here. I don't know if the plan eventually would be to put him with Anna Jay. The reason I said that, months ago, is when you see him out there, the way he's carrying himself and the way he's healing on the audience, I'm better than you, and you know all that type of thing. The self-absorbed pretty boy coming to the ring with the hot girl. It's easy. It's easy heat. It's easy to get people to boo you. And so I think it would work, and it certainly would be a lot better than whatever the hell they have Anna Jay doing now. I mean, she's just background noise in the JAS. She's part of the group, but she's not doing anything. This would probably get her more visibility on television also. So it was a good first effort for Jungle Boy. But it is only a first effort, and we shall see where this goes. But they are obviously building to Jungle Boy and Hook for the FTW title. I don't know if that's for All In or if that's going to be a television match. You know, All In is still 2 months away. So probably All In would be my guess, is what they're planning for. Which means 2 more months of heel Jungle Boy promos. We'll see how he does. But this was good. So then we had Ruby Soho one-on-one against Alexia Nicole. This was the makeup match for what should have been Ruby Soho and Britt Baker, but as I mentioned earlier, Britt Baker is ill. She has fallen sick, and so she was not on the show tonight. So Ruby ended up against Alexia Nicole. She won quickly. She grabbed the rubber glove from referee Paul Turner. She applied lockjaw for the easy submission. After the match, Saraya held up Nicole as Soho spray painted an L on her for good measure. Ruby then cut a promo. She said that Canada's finest here wasn't her original opponent tonight, because due to this filthy, germ-ridden country, Britt Baker is now sick. She said that they never had... She hopes they never have kids, her and Adam Cole, because they'll be weak little bastards. She said a year ago, Britt said that she, being Ruby, didn't know who she was. But Soho loves who she is now. Meanwhile, Britt Baker is a shell of her former self. Next week, I'm going to take Britt's chance at being a 2-time Owen Hart Cup winner. I'm going to leave her with exactly what she is, nothing. And just the way that she was looking into the camera and they kind of zoomed in on her, I really liked this promo. I thought Ruby did a damn good job with this here and her delivery of it. This is one of the best promos I've ever seen her cut. So this was good stuff. You know, the way that she was going after Britt, as hard as she was going after her here, kind of makes me think that Britt's going to get the win. But I had Ruby going all the way to the finals against Willow, and Willow Nightingale winning the entire tournament. So I'm going to stick with that. Although now, again, I'm a little unsure about what this outcome is going to be next week, because now it feels like a Britt Baker win, but I still think Willow is going to win the entire thing. So then it was time for the main event of the night, which was a Tornado Tag Team match. It was Sting and Darby Allin taking on the Painmaker, Chris Jericho, which is just Chris Jericho with clown makeup on, and Sammy Guevara. Sting and Jericho started jousting like right out of Star Wars with their lightsabers, only they were using their baseball bats at the beginning of this match. Sting hit a Stinger Splash. Sammy laid out Darby with a top rope cutter. Again, tornado tag, for those who don't know, everyone's in at the same time. So basically it's just pure chaos. First fall wins the match. Guevara and Jericho, they put the boots to Sting until Sammy threw a ladder into the ring. Darby got launched at one point. They were on the floor. He got launched into the ring steps. He flipped over the ring steps, like his knees collided. He flipped over the steps, over the barricade, basically landed on his feet, but then fell down. I have to go back and rewatch that. defying the laws of physics there. During the commercial break, all four men brawled into the crowd. Jericho at one point ripped the Sting sign apart and shoved it in Sting's mouth. Coming back from the break, Sammy was on the barricade, and he hit a leaping cutter off the barricade, caught Darby on the way down on the floor. As Sammy was tending to Jericho and Sting, though, he was over with them. This allowed Darby time to recover. He wiped out Guevara with a coffin drop. So Sting and Darby then, they set two tables up outside the ring. Side by side, not stacked, but side by side next to each other. In the ring, Darby is setting up a ladder. And I could tell right away that the tables were too far away. And I felt like 2003 all over again, watching WrestleMania 19. In the main event with Kurt Angle and Brock Lesnar. When I see Brock Lesnar going up to the top rope, and I'm just thinking, I'm screaming, he's too far away. Kurt is too far away. And guess what? He was too far away. So it was kind of giving me flashbacks to that. So I'm thinking the same thing, like, those tables are too far away. Whether it's Sting whoever's going to dive here, they may die because those tables are too far away. Darby starts climbing the ladder. On the other side of the ladder, though, Sting is climbing up as well. So now Darby and Sting are face to face here, halfway up the ladder, and they're talking to each other, and Sting is telling Darby, no, I want to do it. I want to be the one to dive. What did I say at the beginning of the stream? Darby is a terrible influence. He's a terrible, terrible influence on Sting. But I mean, look, one of these days you keep tempting fate, and I hope it never happens, God forbid, but you keep tempting fate. Like, all those dives that we saw Sting doing from the stage and from the balconies, that was crazy enough, right? But we saw it. We saw it multiple times. And much respect to Sting. 60 plus years old, still doing shit like that. I don't remember Sting doing stuff like that when he was 40 years old. And here he is doing it at 64 years old, right? But at some point, it's the law of diminishing returns, where we've seen it. It was cool. It was scary, but thankfully he came out of it unscathed, right? And it's like, okay, cool. You know what? You did it. Great, right? You don't need to keep doing it. But then you keep doing it. And at some point, something bad's going to happen. And then I'm going to feel bad, even though it's not my fault. And Tony Khan's probably going to feel bad because he could step in and say, hey, you know what? Why don't we save those for, like, the bigger shows, right? Because Sting doesn't have that many big shows left. Even though now it almost sounds like maybe he's not retiring this year. If you listen to the comments he made at the media scrum the other day. He did say that, you know, Sting is closer to the end than the beginning, but I don't know. Just based on what he was saying, I'm not so sure he is necessarily retiring so soon. But he doesn't have that many big shows left, right? At least save it for something like Wembley or something, or a pay-per-view or something like that. Why is Sting on television doing shit like this? So he's on the ladder. Sting goes and he dives. He jumps off the ladder. He splashes Sammy through one of the tables. Did not crash through the second table, but he did smack the second table. And it looked like he either smacked it with his mouth or maybe his sternum. But it was very clear that he hit that second table hard, and he was feeling the effects of it. Aubrey Edwards immediately went out to the floor to go check on him. The first thing that I noticed when Sting kind of came up was that his mouth was closed. Like, he was holding his mouth closed, and that told me, okay, maybe he knocked his fucking teeth out. That's what I thought. I was looking to see if he was bleeding, and he was. We know, if you pay attention later on, clearly he was bleeding from somewhere in the mouth area. But that's what I thought. I thought that he knocked his teeth out. And on a night where Britt Baker was out sick, no less. What are the chances? The one time they need a dentist, and she's not there. But I just, it just took me out of the match. Because again, I couldn't tell how seriously he was injured or not. Aubrey was with him for a while. While she was tending to him, the match did continue. Darby wiped out Jericho on the opposite side with a dive. Back inside, dropped in with a skateboard off the top rope, right across Jericho's back. Jericho sidestepped Darby, who crashed face first into the ladder, as Jericho followed by dropping the ladder onto Darby's spine. Darby reversed a corner whip. Jericho went face first into the ladder, which busted Jericho open. So there you go. As I said earlier, we had blood in the opener, we had blood in the elite match, and we had blood in the main event. This was the best possible advertisement they could have had for the Fight Forever video game, which has a lot of blood. But we have blood and guts coming up in a few weeks. Why do we need blood and guts? We have plenty of blood on the show tonight. Wouldn't blood and guts mean more if in the weeks leading up to blood and guts we got no blood? I mean, it's just an idea. Just a thought. You have a show called Blood and Guts coming up. Save the blood. It's only 3 weeks away. Save the blood for Blood and Guts. So anyway, Jericho came up bleeding. Darby tried a coffin drop. Jericho popped him in the back with the skateboard. Connected with a Judas effect, that sent Darby to the floor. And as Darby fell to the floor, guess who rose from the dead? It was Sting. And I was very happy to see that he was up. He seemed to be okay, although, again, there was something going on over here. Looked like some blood to me. But he rose from the dead. He tried a scorpion death drop on Jericho. Jericho countered into the walls of Jericho. And Sting now is crawling on his forearms. He's crawling and inching closer to the corner, and he reaches and he grabs the baseball bat. And he takes the bat, he kind of reaches up, he levels Jericho in the head with it. Sting then hits a Stinger Splash, just one. But as he went for another, Jericho hit a code breaker. But he only got 2 out of it. Sting ducked a Judas effect after that into a Scorpion Death Drop, and he got an earfall. So Jericho got to kick out of that. Jericho then jumped for a drop kick. Sting caught his legs, turned it into the Scorpion Deathlock, and he got the submission. Sting actually got the tap out, which I was not expecting here. Jericho tapped out, and Sting and Darby Allin win the match. It was a wild match. I am glad that Sting was good enough to return for the finish, and he worked those last 2 minutes or so. He looked fine. But again, the whole ladder spot, and again, from the moment I'm looking at this, and I'm just going, like, it's so obvious that he's too far away. Like, have Darby just go out there and fucking, punch Sammy and just move the fucking tables a little bit closer. For God's sakes, the guy is, it's one thing if Darby is going to be the one jumping. Darby's like 140 fucking pounds. Darby can fly, he can go soaring through the air, but this man, come on, man, if you're going to do shit like this, and I know they were the ones who set the tables up, but still, somebody, you see this, and just, adjust on the fly, because the second table is there for a reason. The second table is there to help cushion the fall when he crashes through. And if you're going to come up short, so many things can go wrong. Like I said, Grand Slam last year when he fucking hit his head on the edge of the table, man. I mean, so many things can go wrong in a situation like that, that if he insists on doing stuff like this, every precaution should be taken to make sure that this guy is still in one piece after doing it. So it was scary to see that, because I didn't know how that was going to turn out. Mick Foley jumped off the fucking top turnbuckle to try to give an elbow to, was it Triple H on the announce desk at WrestleMania 2000, his big WrestleMania moment. And we all know how that went. He fell a little bit short, but Foley's a crazy man. Foley did far worse to himself in his career. Sting's got to be smarter than that. But sometimes these guys can be their own worst enemy, and it takes somebody else who has the responsibility to step in and say, look, I'm not going to tell you that you can't do this shit, but let's just be a little smarter about it. It's just amazing where we started when Sting first signed with this company, when they had those conversations initially, and it was about having cinematic matches. How we've gone from that to this is amazing. But it was also a strange finish to the match. If the plan is to do Sting and Jericho one-on-one possibly at Wembley Stadium. And I don't know that it is. Maybe it's not. But it sure feels like that's what they've been building towards. And you've got Sting tapping him out here in the Scorpion Deathlock clean in the middle of the ring, and giving them as much ring time, right? We've seen more from Sting and Jericho between Sunday and tonight. If they were going to do a singles match, after what we've seen, I don't really have any appetite for a singles match now. You know, I mean, the tag matches, at least you get those few spots between them, and Sting doesn't have to do all the work on his own. But we got a lot of Sting and Jericho over the last few days. So I don't really necessarily need to see a singles match now between these two. So maybe that's not the plan. I guess we'll see what they do. Obviously, Sting is going to be wrestling at Wembley. He sounded excited about it at the media scrum. He said, you know, people think that Wembley might be my final match. He goes, that's not going to be my final match. But, you know, I haven't been over there since the TNA days. He mentioned the last time he was in England was when he was wrestling for TNA. And he said we were in a much smaller building. It wasn't in the big stadium, but, you know, he's looking forward to going back. I mean, if not Jericho, what else would they have planned for him? You know, the show's 2 months away. It sure seems like him and Jericho is the direction. He tapped him out here. So does that mean Jericho is going to get his win back? He's going to beat Sting at Wembley Stadium? They're going to have some kind of special stipulation. How's this for a stipulation match? No diving allowed. First person who dives loses the match. How's that first step? This show peaked for me with the opening match. I really enjoyed Moxley and Ishii. It was just a battle. Just the battle between those two guys. And then after that, it was pretty hit and miss. You know, the Jungle Boy promo, like I said, a decent first effort. I thought he did good with that. I look forward to seeing more of his heel work. I think it's something he'll grow into. It's going to take a while. It's not something he's used to, but he did sound more comfortable than he did in the build-up to Double or Nothing when all four pillars were getting promo time on TV. And he had some good promos in there, but this to me felt like I think he's going to be just fine. I think he's going to grow into this. Rampage on Friday has Matt Hardy and oh gosh, who is Matt's partner? Because Jeff is not in Canada. Well, whoever it is, it's Matt Hardy and Johnny TV and QT Marshall are part of this thing. You can tell how interested I am in this. Hikaru Shida one-on-one with Taya Valkyrie. Sean Spears takes on The Blade. And Claudio defends the Ring of Honor World Championship against Commander, because why not? Collision on Saturday, which just so happens to fall on Money in the Bank Day, even though the two are not airing at the same time. I can only pick one review, guys. Guess what I'm reviewing on Saturday? I'll give you a hint. It's not Collision. But Collision on Saturday night will have MJF making his in-ring debut. Chris Statlander defends the TBS title against Lady Frost. Roderick Strong against Samoa Joe in an Owen Hart tournament match. Dustin Rhodes against Powerhouse Hobbs in an Owen Hart tournament match. And Ricky Starks will take on Juice Robinson in an Owen Hart tournament match. So we had no Owen Hart matches tonight. We got, what was that, 3 of them on Saturday. And then Dynamite next week has Swerve Strickland and Keith Lee in the Blind Eliminator taking on Darby Allin and Orange Cassidy. And Britt Baker will be back. She will take on Ruby Soho in an Owen Hart tournament match. So there you go. See, and I did that in a way where it was clear, it was concise. I didn't have to speed through it. Poor Excalibur here. He doesn't have the same luxury, but that is the lineup for all the shows coming up. Here is the Twitter poll for the June 28th episode here of Dynamite. 65% of you have given this show a thumbs up. 34% thumbs down. So go ahead and vote at Solomonster, where you can always vote in these polls. Let me know what you think. What did you think of this post-Forbidden Door edition of Dynamite? I want to hear from you guys. I also want to hear from you guys. If you got a super chat to drop, now is the time to do it. Now is the time to do it. Now, the goal for Be the Booker tonight was 400. We are currently at 334. So We'll see if in the time it takes me to do these super chats, if we get to 400, we'll do it. It's going to be up to you guys. One and only with the 499. Do you think if Adam Cole never got injured, that he would have gotten the AEW World Championship before MJF? No. Josh Carlos, do you think CM Punk interrupts MJF's Collision debut? I think there's a decent chance of it, yeah. I think there's a decent chance of it. I mean, after all, it was clear he was taking shots at MJF in his opening promo when he came back. MJF is going to be on his show. So maybe we'll get a little back and forth between the two of them. I think that would make sense. See, but here's the thing, though. It only makes sense if that's the match they're building to, and the match they're building to is MJF and Adam Cole. So I actually wouldn't do that. I would not do that. I would keep those two apart because Punk wasn't so much calling him out. He was dropping little teases. I think if you're going to do Punk and MJF in some sort of match, who's the real champion, you do that next year. You know, right now Punk has plenty of people he can be working with and feuding with, whether it's Samoa Joe or Jay White or whoever it may be. He's in the Owen. He's doing something totally separate and different from what MJF is currently doing with Adam Cole. So I would not do that. I think there's a chance it happens, but I would keep the two of them apart. Otherwise, you're just teasing a match that's not happening for a while. Josh Carlos, do you think... I'm sorry, not Josh. Jimmy. Jimmy says Sting is just trying to kill himself at this point. I could think of quicker ways to do that, but let's hope that's not what he's doing. Let's hope that's not what Sting is trying to do. That would be very bad. Rizzo. I just saw that stupid Sting spot. My God, that guy has a death wish. JM. Regarding our recent exchange regarding Tony Khan putting a stop to Sting's bumps, looks like you were right. I'm always right. You should know this. You should know to listen to what I have to say. Come on. Christopher Smith, I think Britt beats Ruby, and then Britt versus Sky Blue. Ruby might cost Britt the match, and Sky Blue goes to the finals. That would make sense if Athena beats Willow. If Athena beats Willow, which is very possible. You know, Athena has like a 48-match win streak going on here. If they don't want her losing, then she'll go to the finals, and then it's Athena and Sky Blue, and then it's rest in peace Sky Blue. I would not want to be Sky Blue going in there with Athena. Red Emissary of Darkness, Tony Khan smells like oranges, cocaine, and sweat. Eric the Sean with the $10 super chat. It's Wednesday. You know what that means. My nephew was born. His name is Dominic, and I hope he doesn't turn into an ex-con like Ray's son. Welcome to the world, nephew. Well, congratulations, Eric. That is very cool. And indeed, welcome to Dominic. He'll be listening to the podcast in no time. Nick Grasso, is Eddie Kingston going to be the fifth man for Blood and Guts? And who will be the fifth man for the BCC? To be honest, Kota Ibushi should go to be the fifth man for the Elite, not Eddie Kingston. Already talked about that. I don't think it's going to be 5-on-5 because there's no need for it. Eddie Kingston's going to be in Japan for the G1, so I do not expect him to be part of that match. And yeah, at this point, Ibushi then would just feel shoehorned in there for no real reason, especially with Danielson being hurt. So I would, if it's me, I just keep it to 4-on-4. Save Ibushi for another time. Ibushi's going to come in. It's not a matter of, oh, well, if he doesn't come in for Blood and Guts, I guess he's not coming in. Ibushi's going to come in. 110%. We are going to see Kota Ibushi reunited in AEW with Kenny Omega. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. If it does not happen in Boston on July 19th, it will happen some other time. It's not the end of the world if it doesn't happen in Blood and Guts. Bobbert, thank you again for that $40 earlier. Appreciate you. Kiddo Hudson, can you give a birthday shout out to my brother Paul? I don't know. What do you think? Should I? Eh. I'm kidding. Happy birthday to Paul. You didn't tell me how old Paul is. So I'm going to assume that Paul is 53 years old. So happy birthday to Paul. And if you are not 53 years old, then this is a very early birthday shout out for when you do turn 53 years old. I hope it's the best 53rd birthday that anybody has ever had. There you go. How's that for a birthday shout out? Uffman says, without Regal, it is very fitting for Moxley to announce blood and guts. He should just announce blood. Shouldn't even be, just cut the guts out. He should just stand in the ring on the mic and yell blood. That's it. That's like his mating call. I feel like when he and Renee are, doing their funny business together, that's probably what he does. He just yells blood. He probably bleeds. I don't want to get too gory and graphic for you here, but Kiddo Hudson again says, if AEW and had a Hell in a Cell, what would they call it? AEW had Hell in a Cell, what would they call it? Well, let's get some good names in the chat. What should AEW call their Hell in a Cell? There's Tony. Come on, Tony. What would you call the AEW version of Hell in a Cell? Let's see what you guys can come up with. Arabian Night 2000, $10 super chat. If he loses the title at Wembley, could you see Orange Cassidy be the one to beat MJF? I know it sounds insane, but he is the most over homegrown star at the moment, and his credibility has gotten better recently, more than Starks and Darby. I don't see it now. I don't see that. Orange Cassidy is definitely over with the AEW audience, and he's had a great run as the international champion so far. But no, I do not see him being the one to beat MJF, nor would he be my choice. Rage in the Cage seems to be the popular name in the chat. That's what WWE called one of their In Your House pay-per-views back in, I believe it was February of '96. I always liked that name. Rage in the Cage, I think that works. Chris Ludek, why doesn't Jack Perry come out to the 90210 song? I think that, you want to get heat. I think that would actually be a pretty damn good idea too. Have him come out to the Beverly Hills 90210 theme song. I mean, Tony Khan, if he can get the rights to Final Countdown and Elton John songs, that should be a piece of cake. Boomerang. I was entertained by Jack Perry's promo outside of the long pauses in between. Next thing on the order, cutting his hair and styling it like Dylan McKay. See, I think he should cut his hair and perm it like Harley Race. What do you think? What do you think about a Jungle Boy perm like Harley Race? Would that not work? I think Anna Jay would drop him like a bad habit. Arabian Night. Imagine this dream about a prime Randy Orton against Okada. Would have been legendary. Both make everything effortless and smooth, and the two best drop kicks ever. What are your thoughts? I think Okada and Orton would be a tremendous match. Two of the best drop kicks, yes. Don't sleep on Bob Holly's old drop kick. Old Hardcore Holly, he had a pretty badass drop kick himself back in the day. Turtlehead says that Jungle Boy should straighten his hair out like Fabio. Dan Richards, Sting is legend, doesn't need to do garbage spots. Oh look, I'm sure people said the same thing about Terry Funk when he was in ECW, and he did it anyway. Some guys, they just can't be, they cannot be helped. Oz and Glorious, Sting has had 3 close calls in 4 days, all of them involving Sammy Guevara. It's like Matt Hardy a la Daly's Place all over again. That's the thing, man. It's the frequency of that. At least save them. for special occasions. So the more you do it, you're just tempting fate. All you're doing is asking for problems. No Cap says, thoughts on Meltzer not verifying the story on a top star having heat with Punk. I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm trying to like block all that stuff out of my feed. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's just the same shit we hear about every fucking week with these stories. And so he's not verifying. There's a story about a top star having heat with Punk. Is that the same person who was in a bad mood, or is this the new Punk story that I didn't hear about? Hey Yachiru, thank you, man. It's good to see you too. So yeah, no Cap. I don't know exactly what that's in reference to. EJ Slam finally a heel, changing his theme so fans won't sing it. Jericho and Moxley should take advice from Jungle Boy. Ed Swoggle, no cage, team, ladder, or trios, and fight forever. No trios? That's all AEW does, are trios matches. How is there no trios mode? How is there no trios mode? We had at least one or two more trios matches on the show tonight. We had two of them, right? Yeah, we had two more trios matches tonight. How is there no trios mode? Silver Tower, can't wait for Kingston to, quote, fix this. Renee is going to have a meltdown. Arabian McNutt, did it again. Arabian Night, will we ever get MJF against Kingston just for the promos? Well, I was just talking about that earlier. I think we should. At some point, we should get MJF and Eddie Kingston. The promos, let's be honest, I mean, the promos would be better than the match. But promos are really what would be gold in that program. Hey, Paul Carpenter, thank you for the $5. You were talking about Darby Allin wanting to climb Mount Everest. They found an actor that passed away, Julian Sands, that went on a mountain hike in January. Did they find him on Mount Everest? Because I know Mount Everest is just littered with bodies that are just left there buried in the snow. So as people climb the mountain and get higher, they just see like off to the side, oh, there's a body, or there's somebody, and they just leave them because it's difficult and it's dangerous and it's expensive, or it would be, to kind of move them. And also there are people who think, well, it's kind of their final resting place, they should be left there. It's a very morbid thing. So I don't know. I mean, so did they find him on the mountain? I mean, Darby wants to do Mount Everest. Sting may be like, hey, I'll go too. I said he's a bad influence. He'll convince Sting to come on the mountain trek with him. Hey, Boney, thank you for the $2. Did you ever watch Hogan Knows Best? I did, for one episode, and that was enough for me. The one episode was enough. I did not need to see any more than that. Hogan Knows Best was about, they call it reality television. Hogan Knows Best was about as real as this wrestling show that we saw tonight. I saw all that I needed to see. At least Darby did not want to go deep down. Yeah. At least Darby did not want to go under the sea to visit the Titanic or anything like that. Because that honestly sounds like the sort of thing Darby would want to do, for being honest. But he's a madman. All right, so look, like I said, there will be no SmackDown review on Friday night. I will not be here, but I will see you live. The next time I will be with you live is going to be Saturday afternoon. It'll be early evening. Money in the Bank is at 3 o'clock Eastern on Saturday, since they're in the UK. And, we have the Bloodline Civil War. We have the 2 Money in the Bank ladder matches. We have the men's match. Who's going to win? LA Knight, Logan Paul, Damian Priest. Take your pick. If you want to know my predictions for Money in the Bank, you can find them on the channel. When Money in the Bank is over, I will go live. So probably not until 6:30ish or something, which means I'm not having dinner on Saturday, but it is what it is. So that'll be the live review then. And then, of course, episode 815 of the podcast coming up on Sunday. And we'll talk about all the news of the week. We'll talk about the Money in the Bank fallout and Dark Side of the Ring on the Junkyard Dog, which was the new episode this week. Hey, there's Perk Angle on the screen. Red Emissary of Darkness, thank you for the $2. Brian Knobs is a knobhead. Is that what you call a Brian Knobs fan? I didn't know there were Brian Knobs fans. But apparently, if there are, they're called knobheads. So that'll be on Saturday for Money in the Bank. I'll have the streaming page up on Saturday afternoon. And that'll be the July kickoff. July 1st. So there you go. All right, I'm out of here. Be well. Stay safe. Thank you for the Super Chats. Thank you for the love. And I will be back with you for Money in the Bank coming up on Saturday. Until then, take care, guys. Oh, we got Super Chat here. We got two more. Winston, I want to make sure I get Winston. Winston says, what is Sting's finest moment? What is Sting's finest moment? Man, I wish I could sit here and tell you it was beating Hogan at Starrcade 97, but I guess I can't do that, right? Since that moment sucked. And that's not Sting's fault, or at least not entirely his fault. Ask Eric Bischoff, it is Sting's fault, because he didn't have a tan. So, yeah. Sting's finest moment would probably be in WCW. All those great Sting moments where he would come out and beat up the NWO, or he would rappel from the ceiling and the people would just be losing their minds. You know what moment stands out to me, honestly? There was a moment in WCW, one of the many nights, where the NWO was laying a beat down on somebody. And Sting came down to the ring. He just walked down the aisle. He got into the ring. He had his baseball bat. The NWO backed off. Sting's pointing his bat at them, and then he takes the bat and he holds it over the rope outside and he drops the bat. He just drops it. And then Randy Savage was the first one to come take a shot at him, and Sting knocked him down, and he just started, without the bat, he's a one-man wrecking crew, just beating up every member of the NWO, and the crowd exploded. It was like one of those, like, all right, we're going off the air type things where, 20 seconds later, the show went off the air. I always think of that moment. That, and when he harnessed DDP to the hook, and then they brought them back, which was scary as shit. I remember that moment as well. So those are the moments to me where Sting was at his best. When he was feuding with the NWO, when he was doing the black and white crow gimmick, and he would just be a one-man army in there, and the people would lose their fucking minds for it. It really is. It's a shame that we never got the payoff that it deserved, that it was botched, it was ruined. That's what I think of when I think of Sting's finest moments. You want quality Sting matches. He's had plenty of those. But the matches, I think, with Vader, I think the matches with Vader are his best matches. So if you wanted to see Sting's best body of work as far as in the ring is concerned, 1992, 93, that period, the King of Cable and White Castle of Fear strap match. I mean, they had a bunch of matches, but Vader was Sting's best opponent. So hop on the network, hop on Peacock. I guess if you're outside the U.S., it would still technically be the WWE network. Hop on the network and go check out those matches. Those matches are quality shit. Dr. Scorpio. Folks legit waited until yeah, I guess so. Michael with the $9.99. The OC Vikingo Keith Lee against JAS match reminded me of Benny Hill segments where they would speed up the tape for comedic effect. So fast and funny, especially Garcia. Yeah, Garcia was doing that stupid dance again tonight. I know at one point during the match, he was actually standing on top of Keith Lee's back. Keith Lee was down on all fours. And he was standing on top of Keith Lee's back doing that stupid disco dance that he does. So basically, he's become a comedy character. I guess he's able to show off more personality now, but yet he feels like less of a star than he did a year ago. So, congrats, I guess. Congrats. I think... Oh, wait. Power Spy. Power Spy is in with the super chat. Gonna meet D'Lo later today. I am from London. Yeah, we had D'Lo in a few months ago at one of the House of Glory shows for a meet and greet. I didn't really have a chance to hang around him much, but he had a pretty good line. Try to do that thing with my neck like he does, but probably hurt myself if I did. The Garcia Shuffle. Yeah, that's great. The Garcia Shuffle. All right, well, I see now that we have actually smashed our likes goal. Which I wasn't sure if that was going to happen or not, but it appears that we did. So you got it in right there at the buzzer. You're cutting it awfully close, I got to tell you. In the future, if we don't have them in, I'm getting out of here. There ain't going to be no stalling. But thank you for the super chats. Let's be the booker.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to be the booker.
Let's be the booker. We didn't book any matches on Monday because nobody gave a fuck about Raw this week. It was a dead night. We are going to be booking some matches here tonight. Of course, we're going to start out with the men's match here in Be the Booker. And we're going to kick things off here with The Game. The Game. Be the Booker. Triple H. Who sounds like a very frustrated individual these days. He's fighting for his life as the chief content officer. He's fighting. He's trying to hold on. Fightful had a report that the trick they're trying now is to announce matches 2 and 3 weeks in some cases in advance to try to Vince-proof the shows so that Vince won't change the matches on them. Yeah, good luck with that. Triple H is going to go one-on-one with Chad Gable. It's like Triple H against a young Kurt Angle. Triple H and Chad Gable. I think Triple H would give him a lot in that match. Triple H is a Chad Gable fan. I think everybody is a Chad Gable fan. You have to not like fun or recognize talent to not be a Chad Gable fan. Hey, prime Triple H against Chad Gable would be an incredible match. I would have loved to have seen that match. That's a fine choice right there. Good stuff. That would be interesting. All right, here we go on the ladies' side. We begin with the fabulous... fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you. I'm going to book a different match here. We're going to book a different match here. We ain't going with that. All right, we begin with... fuck. The hell with this. Let's go to tag teams. Let's go to the tag teams. Fuck that. Let's go. Here we go. Tiebreaker time. Tiebreaker time. We kick things off. Well, here we go. Here we go. This is what I like to see here. The Briscoes. Jay and Mark Briscoe. 13 times Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions. There you go. That's what I like to see. Great tag teams in Be the Booker. Let's get a drum roll going. Let's get a drum roll going for the Briscoes. Who will their opponents be? Jay and Mark going to take on the Kings of Wrestling. Claudio Castagnoli and Chris Hero. And do you know, and by the way, that would have been a fine Ring of Honor main event, but do you know that Chris Hero is currently on a trial run working behind the scenes, I believe, as I think a producer, either a coach or a producer in AEW. And first thing I said is, he's not done wrestling. He has said that he is not retired. He's just inactive at the moment. But if he's working for AEW, if they end up picking him up and hiring him, he's going to be working for the same company as Claudio. It'd be a shame if at some point we didn't get that Kings of Wrestling reunion, maybe on the Ring of Honor brand. Get the Kings of Wrestling back together one more time. I don't know if it would be for a match. I don't know if it would be for an actual run. That would be great. That would be great. Just for old time's sake. All right. Well, look, we saved the day there with the tag team match. And we'll forget that women's stuff even happened. We'll pretend that it never even happened. Food Hive says, you guys keep me going and I miss you all. Hey, we haven't heard from Food Hive in a while. Food Hive, I hope you're doing well. And Dr. Scorpio says, always count on dem boys and the Harts to save Be the Booker. It would have been awfully hard, I think, to pick the Briscoes and then give them the buzzer. I don't know what team that would have been. But pretty much once I saw them, I knew we were going to be okay. All right, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with me here on a Wednesday night. I'm going to get on out of here. Can he still go? I don't know. I don't think Chris Hero's wrestled the match in a few years. So I'm sure he's a very good professional wrestler. I'm sure he has not forgotten what to do in between the ropes. Even though he's a little bit older, I'm sure Chris Hero is still very capable inside the ring. And certainly in a tag team match, I don't think it would be an issue at all. That chemistry that he and Claudio had, that doesn't go away. I would love to see the Kings of Wrestling get one more shot in the ring. All right, come on back here on Wednesday, or on Saturday, rather. I don't know what day of the week it is. Come on back here on Saturday. We'll talk about Money in the Bank, and then episode 815 on Sunday. All the usual podcast platforms. Until then, take care, guys.